Hello. And welcome. It is Friday the 13th. It's time for some witchy witch stuff. It is almost our third quarter moon in Libra, which exacts tomorrow, I believe, at 6 p.m. here on the West Coast. And I'm so excited because we're finishing out our month-long tarot journey. We started with the new moon in Capricorn. And for that, we pulled the High Priestess as kind of the big cycle that was beginning for us. Here's all my little spread notes here. Don't mind me. So for our new moon in Capricorn, we were working with the High Priestess, and that is the cycle that we were beginning. And we were clearing away the Seven of Swords, clearing out old stories, clearing out old inner narratives or attitudes that were restrictive or false or otherwise holding us back, leaving spaces that no longer served us or that were not treating us well, dealing with imposter syndrome and deciding to step out of that feeling, right? And we were told, or we pulled, what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds, was I believe the Five of Cups. So that was us sort of being faced with some of the grief that comes, but also turning around and looking at the two cups that remain. Or in this card, seeing or remembering the end of the tunnel, this light that's calling to us and kind of encouraging us to move through grief to the other side. And how we can ground our ideas and intentions was the Queen of Cups. So we were holding space for our emotions and becoming really clear on kind of who we are and what we need and giving that to ourselves. At the first quarter moon, we were recognizing that the star was the energy that was accumulating from this new moon cycle. We had to kind of recognize that we were feeling doubtful of some of the incoming information. We were uncertain or fearful that new revelations would be really complicated and would sort of throw us for a loop in this new cycle. And the gift we were asked to work with was justice. So doing what we were capable of to make things right, to kind of set things straight for ourselves. Here's my cat. And lessons that we were able to make sense of approaching the full moon, the sun. So this really lovely energy of kind of seeing ourselves emerge after a period in the moon phase. Kind of, my cats are really enjoying Aries being direct right now, if you can hear them. Kind of emerging from this time of exploring the subconscious in the moon card and emerging as this sort of newly realigned person, kind of stepping into our light, stepping into our authenticity. Now, last week we pulled for the full moon, and the situation culminating was the King of Swords, stepping into our truth. Really powerful for this whole cycle. Making space for this by connecting with friends, community, peers, about our emotions about this whole journey. Celebrating kind of new insights coming in surrounding what comes next. Being the Page of Pentacles, not about taking action on anything. We talked about the heavy retrograde period that we were in and how that was not really conducive to the Knight of Pentacles energy acting on those things, but just allowing insight to emerge from this time. And being able to release some of our creative blockages with the Queen of Wands, releasing some of that stagnant energy that we've been carrying, feeling really burdened by, feeling maybe like creatively clogged or uncertain of how we would sort of make things happen. So releasing this energy, releasing these blockages and opening up this energy for ourselves. So it's really fun now to come to an end of this month-long lunation cycle, ending this story that began with the High Priestess and really getting a sense of what we're going to step out of moving forward, right? So the third quarter moon is this period of release after the full moon where we see everything for what it is under the light of the moon, and then we begin to kind of make peace with what did not work out, discard of anything that is no longer functional for us, whether tangible or subconscious or emotional, and kind of clearing the path for the new moon and the new cycle that will begin next week with our new moon in Aquarius. So I'll take these off because they, you know, when your glasses just feel heavy on your face. I'm gonna take them off. So wrapping up this lunation cycle, we'll be looking at what's coming to a close now. We're going to look at what our previous attachments to that which is coming to a close have been, what those look like, how they feel, how we've made meaning from this whole process, right? If we are coming at this the lens of the High Priestess, deepening our intuition and feeling more kind of stable within ourselves and what we know, then how have we created meaning from this journey? And then ultimately what we can invite in at this time, whether that's sort of as a source of stability or as a source of grounding as we move towards a new cycle. So let's see what we end up with. Okay. Oh, I love that. Love this already. Okay. Cool. That's cool. Okay. So, what is coming to a close now? Anxiety. It's the 9 of Swords. And in this image, we see the sun and the moon, which are our guiding forces, right? The luminaries are indicative of how we move through the world and what we are interested in and how we experience that. And being blocked from accessing that in an authentic way or in a genuine way. We're caged from our sort of natural state. And so I love seeing this as something that comes to a close with this third quarter moon tomorrow. And I'm going to tie in some themes from this third quarter moon. We are still in the Capricorn sun and we have a Libra moon. And so some thoughts that came up for me today as a Capricorn rising were about the unfairness of kind of needing to initiate things or be responsible things for ourselves. It's so unfair that no one's here to help me do this, right? And that's certainly kind of a source of anxiety for me. And so I'm curious if there's any sort of anxiety that you've been recognizing is coming to a close, is lessening in some way, is purifying in some way, right? So let's keep going, kind of see what this connects with. My previous attachment to what is ending now. It's the 7 of Pentacles. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense that these two cards are kind of together. We tend to have anxiety about our progress, right? This is a card about progress. The 7 of Pentacles is a moment of assessment. We are looking at what has grown or what is growing, and we are seeing how it tastes, seeing how it feels, seeing what it looks like. It's a tangible card, right? Lex, I'm curious to hear what this is bringing up for you. It's a tangible card, and we're dealing with our mental capacity here. So there tends to be anxiety about how things are going. This isn't turning out the way I wanted. This isn't as much as I needed. This is not, we're expected to do a lot and to produce a lot. And so there's all kind of a constant anxiety about like, how am I doing? Every day. There's just anxiety about how am I doing? So we have an attachment to maybe kind of constantly assessing our progress. We have an attachment to seeing what, yes, the 12th house Saturn return. I have that too. That is quite a journey. Yeah, absolutely. And that's absolutely Saturn in Aquarius in domicile, very much like We need something to manifest. We need something to be real and serious. And so I think a lot of us starting 2023, Mars having just cleared or finished retrograde, not clearing its shadow by any means yet, but finishing this retrograde, I think a lot of us have started off this year feeling like, I need something to change. I need to slow down. I need to be able to go at my own pace. And so I love seeing that we're releasing some anxiety about this experience, and we are also maybe calling into question our attachment to this anxiety. Like, this anxiety is a drug. The way we are anxious about ourselves and our productivity is absolutely a drug. I watched a TikTok today that was in response to the lucky girl syndrome, and how it's actually a really great practice, even though it seems maybe frivolous. It's just really great practice to think about how I'm going to be okay and good things are happening. Because if we lean into our automatic thinking about bad things happening, then that reinforces our choices, moving from that place of, I assume bad things are happening. And that's definitely connecting with me here. So this anxiety may be something we've held on to because it serves to protect us in some way, or because we feel that we must be anxious in this way in order to protect ourselves and in order to move forward with vigilance and awareness. And yet we're releasing this at this time, which is beautiful in connection to the High Priestess, since we started off the moon cycle with that. I'm really glad to read that, Lex. Yes, it's such a real vibe, and we'll talk more about that. So how we've made meaning from this process. This is very interesting. This 8 of Wands. So we're talking about it. We're sending out messages. Maybe this is in connection to Mars stationing yesterday. Even though Mercury is not direct yet, even though we're nowhere near being clear of the shadow, there is something being communicated now. And I'm definitely seeing that all around. Especially here on Instagram, I see a lot of people moving forward with things that have been waiting, things that have been on the back burner. And I love thinking about this anxiety and oh my God, is it going to be good enough? Or am I doing enough? Oh my God, am I going to survive? And kind of recognizing okay, I can assess where I am, but I don't need to be so anxious about it. And I'm allowed to still make changes from this assessment. This is not the end of the suit, right? This is a little past halfway. So we're not locked into anything yet, even though this 9 is close to the end and it feels like we're locked in. We're really not. And so with this 8, we're seeing things move quickly. We're seeing messages being sent out. We're seeing people express what they've learned in this Mars retrograde. We're seeing people sort of make these sudden identity shifts as we emerge from this old 7 of Swords story of having imposter syndrome, or of being in spaces that don't appreciate us, or feeling like we are carrying these attitudes that aren't helping us. It makes sense that we're sort of excited to just push out of this place and at least begin communicating about what's going on, what we've discovered, and sort of who we are as we emerge from this place. And so what I can invite in at this time, our singular major arcana card for today is Temperance. So that's lovely. So what we can invite in for ourselves is kind of a broader recalibration, which let's again just remember that we started off this Capricorn new moon with the High Priestess. So we have started with a major arcana and we're ending on a note of a major arcana. And this is beautiful. I love thinking about how we started off this month, or this lunation cycle, focusing on our intuition, clearing out things that were not serving our intuition, that were blocking our intuition, clearing out our own thoughts that were blocking our intuition, right? Clearing out our own attitudes that were preventing us from really living and breathing in that knowledge that we carry. And so we're ending on this note of re-entering into balance, which I love. If we think about this too as, this is the card that I'm like, do I remember the sequence of cards? I'm like, we're between the Tower and the Devil here, right? And so essentially there is death rather. Yes, we are between death and the Devil. And so what we have is we've let go of old vices. If we think about the sequence, in death, we are like, we're just radically evolved, right? We are sort of forced out of an old way of being. And we then get to reestablish a sense of balance through temperance. Similar to the magician in the sense that we maybe have access to tools, right? But this is more about access to energies, and that might feel a bit different. And so we are grounding ourselves through sort of having or making sure we have access to these 4 elements here: the wands, the swords, the cups, the pentacles, really balancing ourselves out, grounding ourselves once more. Regaining momentum is what this feels like. Here in the circles, sort of everything radiating outward from this place of balance occurs when we are balanced. And so I'll even bring us back to the traditional kind of Rider-Waite image of temperance, where we have these kind of cups that are alchemizing, like we are mixing elements, we are playing with their chemistry, we're seeing what flows from here, and there's something really inspiring about this process. But that comes when we are rooted in each of the elements, right? The traditional Rider-Waite image has a foot on land and a foot in water. And so now that we are wrapping up this story of High Priestess, we are bolstering our intuition. We've gotten rid of obstacles that are in the way, and we have primed ourselves for the new inspiration that's coming in. I really love this as a message of reground yourself in the elements that stabilize you. Maybe not all of 4 of these elements are what stabilize you. Maybe you're all fire and you just need a lot of fire. So reestablish that for yourself. What does your sense of balance look like, and how can you root into that now? Which is really lovely coming out of the Mars retrograde. We still have the shadow to contend with. We won't be clear of that until March. We have Mercury stationing next week, which is ruling Mars. And so we still have some of those energies that are kind of working themselves out or realigning themselves as Mars begins to slowly crawl forward. And Uranus will station direct towards the end of the month on the 22nd, right after the Aquarius new moon, which is our final Aquarius new moon with Saturn in domicile. So as we prepare for the serious work that Saturn is asking of us at this time, right before Saturn moves into Pisces and floats off for seemingly forever, Saturn's kind of like, okay, so before we prepare, in preparation for this new moon, let's really get centered. Let's really get familiar with what this temperance kind of looks like for us now that we are in this new High Priestess place. Okay, so I love that for us, and it's a really nice way to end this journey. We've covered so much this lunation cycle, and it makes sense with all these planets in retrograde. So, on that note, I'm thinking about how we are doing our next new tapes for the Aquarius new moon. So if hypnosis is helpful for your sense of balance, I invite you to join us for hypnosis next Saturday. It'll be right before the new moon, so we'll literally be meeting in like the last essence of the dark moon before it is new. So that's going to be really lovely. And if you've enjoyed this reading, I ask that you like it and maybe share it with others who may enjoy it. And come back here next week where we will pull cards for the new moon Aquarius, and we'll start our next new moon cycle. So we'll pull cards for that moon. We'll see what kind of cycles are beginning for us as a collective, and we'll take it from there. So we're letting go of anxiety, the 9 of Swords. This is coming to a close with this 3rd quarter moon tomorrow. Our attachment to that anxiety has been that it has served as an assessment tool. And that's why we feel so bound to that anxiety, because we think it helps us check ourselves and how well we're performing at this time. We've made meaning out of this process by communicating, expressing, releasing what has been sort of pent up in this retrograde time. And we are invited to invite in temperance, new balance, reestablishing what elements support us at this time. All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. May you rest now that Mars is direct and slow as lava. And we're going to feel that ball rolling very soon in the weeks to come. All right. I'll see you next time.